Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's going to be going over the all-new Toyota GR Corolla. Before we get into this video though, a huge shout out and thank you to the Large Miller Toyota here in Murray, Utah for giving me some time with this GR Corolla. I'm going to include a link to their inventory in the description down below so you can check out what they have currently. If you have any questions or need any help, just ask for Mitch. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Under the hood, we have a turbocharged 1.6 liter 3-cylinder that goes through a 6-speed manual transmission. Fuel economy is 21 around town and then 28 on the highway, with power outputs being 300 horsepower and then 273 pound-feet of torque, and that goes through all four wheels because this is a Corolla with all-wheel drive. Now, before we go over the front end, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So starting with the hood here, it looks shockingly normal for a Corolla. Obviously, this doesn't have the cool vents you can get on the more aggressive packages with the GR, but, you know, still looks good. And then popping down below, this is where you can tell the GR means business. So you still have the Corolla's cool daytime running lights, but they look like slightly more aggressive somehow here on the GR. It might be the grille down below that is absolutely massive. You got the GR badge, Toyota logo there in the center, and then notice we actually have fog lights with it as well, so you got the practicality there, and I love the venting on the side. It's so aggressive. And you know, I'm of the opinion that the current generation Corolla already looks really cool. This takes it up a notch, that's for sure. So coming around the side here, our tire and wheel setup is 235/40/18 in the front and over in the rear as well, which again makes sense because it's all-wheel drive. But you guys can see really cool design on the wheel. You got like thin spokes, the wheels all blacked out, and you got the red brake caliper with the GR logo, which just kind of makes things, and you know, 18-inch wheels aren't massive, but still, the brake rotor pretty much fills up the entire wheel. And you got to remember, this is a pretty lightweight car, and so those are some pretty serious brakes for how small the GR is. Now, something I want to mention is this has McPherson type front struts, and then it has double wishbone multi-link in the rear for the suspension setup, which makes this shockingly similar to the Honda Civic Type R. Coincidence? I think not. Now, I've got this really cool venting here on the side with the GR badge, and then you guys can see here with the ground effects, and then notice it says GR4 there, which is really cool. And then we do have to talk about the fender flares here. Notice how it just bulges there in the back, and then also here in the front as well. And here's kind of a better look so you guys can see just how wide this is. I think the best way for me to show this is to show you guys like a standard Corolla. Now, this one is not a hatchback, it's a sedan, but you guys can kind of see like the difference here. Like, just look how much wider the GR is compared to the regular Corolla. It's a night and day difference. And that leads us to the full side profile here, which actually looks really cool. And you can see the Tacoma there in the background just absolutely dwarfs it. Now, here's our key fob. You guys can see we've got the unlock function, the lock function, Toyota logo there on the front, and then notice the GR logo on the back, which, yeah, pretty special key fob. Now, with the rear hatch, there's a button here at the bottom that you press to pop it open just like a regular Corolla. Notice we have a cargo cover here for the rear, and then it says GR Corolla down below. And then if we lift up the loading floor, you can see storage space underneath, which is pretty solid. And so when it comes to practicality, it's actually really good. They give you these nice handles so you can just kind of like plop it down. Now, here's a quick look at the taillights here, which just looks so cool, especially with the wide body kit that comes with the GR. And then you guys can see you got your GR Corolla badge down below. And then, yes, we do have the famous triple exhaust tip situation here. And speaking of that, let's roll an exhaust clip. And then finishing things up with the rest of the rear, this particular package looks pretty interesting because you don't have the crazy spoiler there at the top or anything like that. And so it's kind of a little bit more understated. This will definitely, you know, fly under the radar a little bit more. I mean, it's still pretty crazy looking with the wide body part of it, but you know, it'll be a little bit of a sleeper. Now, popping inside, since this has the baseline package, you guys can see quite a bit of a economy car here, but notice really nice cloth trim where you're actually going to rest your arm, and you got a cup holder. And you guys probably noticed with the door that the bodywork actually continues onto the door panel itself. Now, legroom here in the back is really solid, and something to note, there are no storage pockets here on the backs of the seats, and there's no vents or anything here in the center. It's pretty bare bones back here. But don't you worry, headroom's actually really solid. And then you guys can see we actually have a cup holder armrest. Now, the front door panel is pretty much identical to the rear. You guys can see again with the plastic trim up top and then the cloth trim down below. We've got all of our window controls here. Notice with the door lock and unlock, and then the mirror adjustment setup. And by the way, the mirrors do have blind spot monitoring. The seats say GR at the top, which is pretty cool. And these are pretty dang aggressive sport bucket seats, as you can see. Notice they are manually adjustable. We, of course, have the 3-pedal layout, and look at the finish on the pedals. That's definitely nice. Now, you've got this for your auto rev match function right there, and then you guys can see for the heated steering wheel. And then the steering wheel itself is also manually adjustable. So starting with the steering wheel, you guys can see really nice leather trim all around. You get another GR logo at the bottom, and you got nice stitching there on the center portion. And it looks like this comes with quite a bit of practical safety stuff. So first off, you've got adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist. You've got volume voice command controls for the center stack, radio controls. I mean, it has literally everything. And of course, we have our turn signal light stock and then our windshield wiper stock. So since I am in a building, I do have the car in accessory mode right now so that I don't have it running for like 10 minutes while I do this interior clip stuff. So anyways, you guys can see really cool looking gauge cluster. I mean, look at that like in the center, and it's going to keep popping up with that because it's going to tell me to turn on the car. But you can scroll through different menus. Like look at the side menus, how those will also change to different bits of info. Pretty cool setup, honestly. I mean, it feels really special, and I mean, compared to like the regular Corolla, I don't know, I like it quite a bit. And then we've got a bunch of different drive modes. So notice we got like a sport mode that we can go into, for example. Now, I noticed that when you change it into the different drive modes, it doesn't really do anything crazy. I mean, obviously it's going to change the dynamics of the vehicle and also how the all-wheel drive system performs. You guys can see right now it shows that we are a 60-40 split, but other than that, like the gauge cluster, you know, stays the same. And well, speaking of stuff that stays the same, you guys can see we've got this backup camera with trajectory lines, just like the regular Corolla. Now, as for the infotainment system, this has Toyota's newer unit here. So if you guys have seen my other 23 Corolla reviews, then you'll be very familiar with this infotainment system. Response time is pretty solid. It's got a shortcut bar on the side. And so overall, I mean, it's pretty easy to use. And then we do have a single zone climate system here with the GR Corolla as well. And then you guys can see you've got this nice like stitching and padding here on the dash. And then look at the vent there on the side. That also, it's part of a regular Corolla, but it still looks cool. So we've got heated front seats here, and then the camera doesn't want to focus whatsoever, but you also have a wireless phone charging pad there as well. Now here's our drive mode select, so it's just this little switch here that you move up and down, and then you've got your stability control button right next to that. Now here's the shifter for the 6-speed manual. First off, with the reverse lockout, it's up and over, if you guys are wondering. Now in terms of the shifter feel itself, I've heard a lot of outlets talk about how this shifter feels like slushy or something like that. They're like, oh, it just doesn't feel as good as, you know, some other shifters. And here's the deal. It's really direct into the gates. Like that feels really good. And this is coming from someone who owned a Ford Focus RS, which, you know, a lot of people still see as like the king of hot hatches. I think that this is a really good shifter, especially compared to a Ford Focus RS, by the way, like way more direct. And I don't know, I like the feel of it. Honestly, like the only thing that I could complain about is like the shifter head itself kind of like looks slightly plasticky at the top, if that makes sense. But like it feels pretty good in your hand, and the gates feel amazing. Now, obviously I got to drive one to really get a feel for the whole transmission, but you know, just doing this here, I'd say it's got good shifter feel. Now I've got to officially turn on the car, so you guys got to hear that 3-cylinder rumble. Oh boy, sounds so good. So here is our whole all-wheel drive select setup. So it's this little dial right here that you can basically twist from side to side, and then you also have the push in for the track function. So you guys can see that GR4 right there. So if I push in for track, notice we've got the track setting now, so it'll actually change to that. And then you guys can see I've got the front setting, and then I have the rear setting. So notice how it changes instantly. I think that that's just so cool. And the fact that you can send 70% of the power to the rear to have that kind of like fun drifty feel, that's a pretty fun feature. And then you got one of these, so you can do e-brake slides, of course. And then you guys can see you've got some cup holders here. And then I'm not sure what that was supposed to be, but then you got some charging ports behind that. And then we do have a regular glove box. And so it's kind of interesting that like this doesn't have the normal Corolla center console. It's like completely different. I'm sure that, you know, having all-wheel drive definitely made it so that they probably couldn't put as much stuff in this center portion as they normally would have wanted to. So here's a window sticker for the GR Corolla, and again, this is a core edition, so this is the quote-unquote base model version. You guys can see all the standard equipment, and then notice with the optional equipment on this, so this has the performance package added to it, so it's got the limited slip differential added to it, and that's why you also have the red painted calipers, and then you guys can see the tech package as well. And so I think that this pretty much has what I would personally add to it, you know, living in a climate like Utah with like the heated seats and heated steering wheel and all that, and also just having the performance stuff added to it. But anyways, total MSRP is $39,734 on this particular one. And let's sum things up. Okay, well, I've got to actually slightly back this up like an inch or so. Actually, this is really hard to film and do this. But anyways, summing things up with the GR Corolla after seeing one. Now, obviously, I haven't driven it yet, so I'm kind of a poser by saying what I'm about to say. But I can tell you, I'm actually really impressed with seeing this in person. And steering is actually super light, at least at low speeds here. I wonder if it weights up more. But that's at the 60-40 split. Let's actually see if I put it in track, if the steering changes at all. Huh, and then let's put it in sport mode. Yeah, it still feels really light. And then let's do the rear. Yeah, the steering's super light. Like, that's actually kind of very interesting, to say the least. But anyways, I'm actually super impressed with this GR Corolla. I think that Toyota did a really good job with the styling. And this still like does like the normal hot hatch thing with the interior, where this has like, you know, kind of like a normal economy car interior, but then really cool sport bucket seats and everything. And so I feel like it fits the hot hatch ethos really well. And the biggest thing about this is it undercuts the Honda Civic Type R by a pretty large margin. Because obviously, you know, this isn't the fully loaded version, but, you know, it still has quite a few features, and it's like $5,000 less than a Honda Civic Type R, and it has all-wheel drive, whereas the Honda Civic Type R only has front-wheel drive. And so, you know, I mean, getting either of those cars, this or the Honda Civic Type R in today's market is really difficult. But if you were somehow hypothetically in a situation where you had access to both of them and you had to choose, I kind of lean more towards this, because the Honda Civic Type R is just like a slight evolution of the previous generation, whereas this is like the first time Toyota's ever done anything like this. Yes, there is the Yaris overseas, but in terms of like something here in the US market, we've never had a GR Corolla. And so like, I don't know, I think this is like super exciting. Again, a turbocharged 3-cylinder, it's different, right? The Honda Civic Type R is kind of like, oh, hot hatch tradition, whereas this, again, it does a lot of the hot hatch stuff, but it also adds some stuff that we haven't seen yet. And so I don't know, I think it's slightly more exciting. Let me know which one you guys would pick out of the bunch, but with where pricing's at right now, I think that this is just a better value. Anyways, again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Toyota here in Murray, Utah for giving me some time with this Corolla. Check out their inventory in the description down below. Ask for Mitch if you have any questions. I'll see ya.